The escape pod shook again and Kiva gripped the wall tighter. Her fingers hurt from holding on so long, but she could not let go. Next to her, Tern made a small frightened sound. He was only 16 cycles old, still a child by their people's standards. How much longer? Tern whispered. Kiva looked at the pod's damaged screen. The numbers meant nothing good. Maybe 2 hours. Maybe less. She did not say what would happen after that. The air would run out, or the pod would fall apart, or they would drift forever in the cold dark. All three options ended the same way. Death would find them here, alone in the asteroid field, far from any world that would help them. This was the punishment for refusing. This was what happened when someone said no to the elders. Kiva closed her eyes and remembered 3 days ago. She had stood in the council chamber, surrounded by the 12 elders in their silver robes. They had told her the decision. She would be paired with Korath, a male from the high genetic line. It was an honor, they said. Her DNA would serve the species. She had asked one simple question. What if I choose someone else? The chamber had gone silent. Her mother had gasped. Asking such a question was the same as refusing. In Velran society, individuals did not choose. The elders decided everything. Who you paired with, what work you did, even how many children you could have. Everything served the greater purpose of genetic perfection. You dare to question? The head elder's voice had been cold as ice. Tern had stepped forward then. Foolish, loyal Tern. She has the right to ask, he had said. And just like that, both their lives had ended. Not with death, but with something worse. Exile. The elders stripped them of their citizen marks, their family names, everything. Then guards threw them into this failing pod and launched them into space. The Velran did not waste resources on executions. Exile was cleaner. Let the universe deal with the disobedient. Another shake rattled through the pod. Red lights flashed on the wall. The oxygen system was failing faster now. Kiva looked at her brother. His silver skin had turned gray with fear and sickness. His breathing came in short gasps. I'm sorry, she said. Her voice broke. This is my fault. Tern reached over and took her hand. His fingers were ice cold. No, you were brave. I was proud to stand with you. Tears burned in Kiva's eyes. She had killed them both with her pride, her need to be free. And for what? To die slowly in a metal coffin? The lights flickered. The air tasted stale and thin. Kiva's head felt light and strange. This was it, then. The end. Then something beeped. Kiva's eyes flew open. On the screen, a new signal appeared. A ship. Something big moving through the asteroid field. Moving toward them, Tern, she breathed. A ship. Her brother lifted his head. Hope and fear mixed on his face. Hope because they might live. Fear because most species treated exiles worse than death. Slavers, pirates, bounty hunters. They all loved finding helpless refugees in dead pods. Kiva triggered the distress beacon anyway. Dead for certain, or maybe dead later. The choice was easy. The ship grew closer. The pod's weak sensors showed its size, massive. A cargo vessel, perhaps. It moved with purpose, adjusting course to intercept them. Minutes passed like hours. The air grew thinner. Kiva's vision started to blur. Tern slumped against her shoulder, barely conscious. Then a voice crackled through the pod's dying communication system. Unknown vessel. This is the cargo ship Morning Star. We've received your distress signal. Please respond. The language was strange, translated by the pod's computer. Not Velran. Not any of the major species Kiva knew. She fumbled for the communication button. We are here. 2 passengers. Life support failing. A pause. Then, understood, hold on. We're bringing you in. The pod lurched as the larger ship's tractor beam caught it. Kiva felt the pull, the movement. They were being drawn toward the Morning Star, toward strangers who might help or might hurt. The pod connected to an airlock with a solid clang. Kiva heard the hiss of atmosphere equalizing. Fresh air rushed in and she gasped, filling her burning lungs. Beside her, Tern coughed and breathed deep. The outer hatch opened. Light flooded in, bright and harsh. Kiva blinked against it and saw figures standing there. They were tall, bipedal, with smooth skin in various shades of brown and cream. Their eyes were forward-facing like predators. They wore simple clothes in blue and gray. One stepped forward, hands raised and empty. I'm Captain Minho of the Morning Star. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign. Kiva had not been safe since the moment she questioned the elders. She stared at this Captain Minho, searching for lies or tricks. His face was strange but not cruel. His eyes held something she did not expect, Concern? Can you walk? Minho asked gently. Kiva tried to stand. Her legs shook and gave out. Turn was worse, barely able to lift his head. Minho spoke to the others in his language. 2 more of his species moved forward, carrying a floating stretcher. They lifted Turn onto it with careful hands. A female with kind eyes helped Kiva to her feet, supporting her weight. I'm Yuna, the female said. I'm the medical officer. We'll take care of you both. Take care of them. The word sounded wrong. No one took care of exiles. Exiles were nothing less than nothing. What do you want? Kiva asked. Her voice came out harsh, suspicious. What is the price? Minho looked confused. Price, there's no price. You needed help. We helped, that made no sense. Everything had a price. Especially kindness. Kiva had learned that truth her whole life. They moved through the ship's corridors. Everything was clean and functional. Not luxurious, but well-maintained. Other crew members passed by, glancing at the newcomers with curiosity but not hostility. Some even nodded or smiled. Yuna led them to a medical bay. The room smelled clean and felt warm. She helped Kiva onto a bed while others tended to Turn on another. Machines hummed softly, scanning them. You're both dehydrated and malnourished, Yuna said, studying a screen. How long were you in that pod? 3 days, Kiva answered. Since our exile. Exile? Yuna's eyes showed that strange concern again. From where? The Velran Confederacy. We defied the elders. This is the punishment. Yuna's jaw tightened. She exchanged a look with Minho, who had followed them in. Something passed between them. Anger, maybe. But not at Kiva. Well, Minho said firmly, you're not exiles here. You're guests on my ship, and guests are treated with respect. Kiva wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust these strange people with their strange kindness. But trust was dangerous. Trust got you hurt. So she stayed silent and watched, waiting for the moment when they would demand payment. Everyone always did, eventually, waiting for the trap to close. 4 days passed on the Morning Star, and Kiva still waited for the demand. Waited for Captain Minho to tell her what he wanted in return for saving their lives. But the demand never came. Instead, strange things happened. Things that made no sense. Yuna checked on them 3 times each day. She brought medicine that tasted bitter but helped. She asked questions about Velran biology and listened carefully to the answers. When Turn flinched away from a medical scanner, she immediately put it down and explained what it did before trying again. I'm not going to hurt you, she said softly. I promise. Promises meant nothing in Kiva's experience. But Yuna's actions matched her words, and that was new. The crew brought food, not ration paste or nutrient blocks, but actual prepared meals. A crew member named Do-hyun delivered breakfast each morning. He was older, with gray in his dark hair and deep lines around his eyes. His face looked rough and weathered, like someone who had worked hard his whole life. The first morning, he set down 2 trays and grunted. Eat, you're too thin. Kiva had stared at the food. Grains and vegetables and something that smelled warm and savory. Why? She asked. Do-hyun had looked at her like she had asked why water was wet. Because you're hungry. Why else? He left before she could answer. Kiva and Turn had eaten slowly, testing each bite for poison or drugs. There was nothing wrong with the food. It was just good. This pattern repeated. Meals arrived. Medicine came. Yuna tended their healing bodies. Captain Minho stopped by once per day to ask if they needed anything. The crew went about their work, largely leaving the siblings alone but never treating them like prisoners or cargo. By the 5th day, Turn was restless. His natural curiosity was stronger than his fear. When Do-hyun brought breakfast, Turn asked, What do you do on this ship? Do-hyun raised an eyebrow. I'm the engineer. I keep the engines running and fix what breaks. Can I see? Turn asked. Then he quickly added, if allowed. If not forbidden. Something like amusement crossed Do-hyun's weathered face. You interested in engines? Yes, before exile I studied mechanical systems. It was my chosen field. Turn's voice grew sad. Before the elders took that away too. Do-hyun studied the young Velran for a long moment. Then he shrugged. Come on then. I'll show you the engine room. Turn looked at Kiva with wide, hopeful eyes. She wanted to say no to keep him close and safe, but she saw how much he needed this, so she nodded. After they left, the medical bay felt too quiet. Kiva sat alone with her thoughts, and her thoughts were dark. She kept trying to understand these humans. In her experience, kindness was a weapon. People were nice when they wanted something. They offered help to create debt. Then they collected that debt with interest. But what could these humans possibly want from two exiled Velrun? They had no money, no valuable skills, no connections. They were nothing. The door opened. A human entered, different from the others Kiva had met. This one was female with long dark hair tied back. She moved with easy confidence and smiled when she saw Kiva. "Hello," she said. "I'm Hana, I work navigation. Yuna said you might be bored, so I thought I'd visit." Kiva stared. "Why? Why not?" Hana settled into a chair. "Being stuck in medical bay for days must be dull. Figured you might want company." "We are exiles," Kiva said flatly. "In my experience, people do not seek our company." Hana's smile faded. "Well, that's awful. I'm sorry your people treated you that way." She leaned forward. "But you're not with your people anymore. You're with us, and we don't treat people like they're disposable." "Everyone is disposable," Kiva said. It was a truth she had learned young. "Everyone can be replaced." "Is that what they taught you?" Hana's voice was gentle but sad. "That you don't matter?" The question hit harder than expected. Kiva looked away at the clean white walls. "The elders teach that individuals serve the collective. Personal wants or needs are irrelevant. We exist to continue the genetic line in the optimal way." "That sounds lonely," Hana said. "Lonely." Yes, that was the word. Kiva had been lonely her entire life, even surrounded by other Velrun. Especially surrounded by other Velrun, because none of them were allowed to truly connect. All relationships served the collective purpose. "Your species is different," Kiva said. It was not quite a question. "Very different." Hana smiled again. "Humans are messy and emotional, and we argue constantly. But we also love fiercely. We protect our own, and once you're part of a human crew, you're family." Family. Another word that felt foreign. The Velrun had genetic units, not families. Parents raised offspring according to elder guidelines, then released them to their assigned roles. Love was inefficient. Attachment was discouraged. Before Kiva could respond, the door opened again. Turn rushed in, his gray skin flushed with excitement. Dohyun followed, moving slower but looking satisfied. "Kiva," Turn's eyes shone. "The engine room is amazing. They have a hybrid fusion impulse system with triple redundancy, and Dohyun showed me how the plasma manifolds regulate the—" He stopped, realizing he was babbling. "Sorry, it was just very interesting." "He's got a good eye," Dohyun said. "Spotted a minor coolant leak I'd missed." "Sharp kid." Turn practically glowed with the praise. Kiva felt her chest tighten. When was the last time someone had praised her brother? When was the last time anyone had encouraged his interests instead of just assigning him tasks? "Thank you," she said to Dohyun. The words felt awkward in her mouth. Gratitude was not something Velrun expressed often. Dohyun shrugged. "Kid's got talent. Waste not to use it." He headed for the door, then paused. "If you're feeling up to it, you can come visit the engine room too. Might do you good to move around." After he left, Hana stood and stretched. "I should get back to the bridge. But Kiva, if you want to talk or just not be alone, my quarters are in Section C. Stop by any time." Then she left too, and Kiva was alone with her brother once more. Turn sat on the edge of his bed, still radiating happiness. "They're not what I expected," he said quietly. "The humans." "No," Kiva agreed. "They're not." That night, Kiva could not sleep. Questions circled in her mind like scavenger birds. She got up and walked the corridors, testing how far she could go. No one stopped her. No one even seemed to care. The ship's crew nodded to her in passing but did not demand to know her business. She found herself in a common area. A small room with comfortable seats and a viewing screen showing the stars outside. Someone was already there. An alien but not human. This creature had blue-scaled skin and 4 arms. "Hello?" the creature said in translated speech. "You're one of the new rescues, yes?" Kiva tensed. "Yes, who are you?" "My name is Bex. I've been with this crew for 3 years now." Bex gestured to an empty seat. "Sit if you like. The view is better than staring at medical bay walls." Slowly, Kiva sat. "You said rescues. Not passengers. Not workers. Rescues. That's what we are," Bex said simply. "Captain Minho pulled me out of a destroyed station where I was left for dead. I had nowhere to go. He offered me a place here." Bex's 4 eyes studied Kiva. "You're wondering when they'll demand payment, when the kindness will turn into obligation." "Yes," Kiva admitted. "This has to cost something." "It does," Bex said. It costs them fuel to feed extra mouths, time to help us heal, energy to include us, but they never ask us to repay it. That's the strange thing about humans. They help because they think it's right, not because it benefits them. That makes no sense. Why would a species behave that way? How do they survive? Bex made a sound like laughter. I asked the same question. Una explained it to me once. She said humans remember what it's like to be helpless, to be hurt and afraid and alone. So when they see others suffering, they act. They can't help themselves. Kiva looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velran Confederacy continued without her. The elders would pair Korath with another female. Her genetic unit would forget she existed. Life would go on as if she had never been born. I don't understand them, Kiva whispered. You will, Bex said. Give it time. Humans are strange, but they're good strange. You're safe here. Actually safe. That's not something people like us experience often. Safe. That word again. Maybe, Kiva thought, maybe she could learn to believe it, just maybe. 10 days had passed when the alarm sounded. Kiva was in the engine room with Tern, watching him work alongside Do-hyun. The sharp blaring noise made her jump, her heart instantly racing with old fear. What is that? Tern asked, his eyes wide. Do-hyun's face went hard. Proximity alert. Another ship just appeared close by. He activated a communication panel. Bridge, this is engineering. What's happening? Captain Minho's voice came through, tense and controlled. Unknown vessel just dropped out of faster-than-light travel right on top of us. They're hailing us now. Kiva felt ice flood her veins. She knew what this was. Somehow she knew. Do-hyun, she said urgently. You need to hide us, please. They're looking for us. The old engineer looked at her, saw the terror in her face, and did not question. Come on, both of you. There's a maintenance crawl space behind the secondary reactor. He led them quickly to a narrow panel in the wall. Behind it was a small space filled with pipes and wiring. Kiva and Tern squeezed inside. Do-hyun started to close the panel, but Kiva stopped him. Wait. What if they search the ship? What if they threaten you? Just give us to them. Don't fight. We're not worth... Kid? Do-hyun interrupted, his voice firm. You let me worry about that. Stay quiet and stay hidden. He closed the panel. Through a gap in the metal, Kiva could see part of the engine room. She and Tern huddled together in the dark, cramped space. Her brother was shaking. Minutes crawled by. Then voices echoed through the ship's corridors. Heavy footsteps. Multiple beings moving through the morning star. Kiva pressed her hand over her mouth to silence her breathing. The footsteps entered the engine room. Through the gap, Kiva saw them. Vorath. 3 of them, hulking creatures with thick gray hide and too many teeth. They were hunters and slavers feared across dozens of systems. They took exiles and refugees and sold them to whoever paid best. Where are they? The lead Vorath's voice was like gravel grinding together. Our scanners detected Velran life signs before your ship picked them up. I don't know what you're talking about, Do-hyun said. His voice was calm, almost bored. We picked up salvage from a dead pod. No survivors. Liar. The Vorath moved closer. Velran exiles belong to whoever claims them. They have no rights, no protection. You stole our property. Property? Do-hyun's voice went cold. They're living beings, not property. One Vorath laughed, a horrible wet sound. Such human sentiment. You're soft. Always have been. Now give us the Velran or we'll take them by force. In the crawl space, Kiva made a decision. She could not let these humans be hurt because of her. She started to move toward the panel, but Tern grabbed her arm and shook his head frantically. She pulled against him, but he held tight. Then Captain Minho's voice came through the ship's communication system, broadcasting to every room. Vorath vessel, this is Captain Minho. The individuals you're looking for are under my protection. They're crew members of this ship, and I don't surrender crew members to anyone. Crew members? The Vorath leader sounded amused. You made exiles into crew? In 3 days? Don't insult my intelligence, human. Believe what you want, Minho said. But they're not leaving this ship. Now remove your boarding party immediately or I'll consider this an act of piracy. The Vorath made that terrible laughing sound again. You're one small cargo ship. We could take this vessel apart and pick through the pieces. Last chance. Hand them over. Silence stretched. Kiva's heart hammered so hard she thought everyone must hear it. This was wrong. This was all wrong. Why would these humans risk themselves? It made no sense. Then a new voice cut through the communication system. Female, crisp with authority and absolutely confident. Vorath vessel, this is Commander Sora of the Human Defense Fleet, currently 3 minutes out from your position with 4 military ships. I suggest you reconsider your threats. The Vorath in the engine room froze. Their leader activated his own communication device. This is a private matter. Doesn't concern the military. It concerns me when someone threatens one of our ships, Commander Sora said, and when someone tries to claim living beings as property in human-protected space. You have 2 minutes to withdraw your boarding party and leave this sector. After that, my people start shooting. You would risk war over 2 worthless exiles? The Vorath sounded genuinely baffled. We would risk war over the principle, Sora said coldly. Every sentient being deserves freedom and protection. That's not negotiable. 1 minute 30 seconds. The Vorath leader swore in his own language. He gestured sharply to his companions. Move, we're leaving. They stomped out of the engine room. Kiva heard them moving through the corridors, then the sound of an airlock cycling. Minutes passed. The alarm finally went silent. Do-hyun opened the panel. They're gone. Commander Sora scared them off. Kiva climbed out on shaking legs. Turn followed, looking as stunned as she felt. You called the military? For us? Of course we did. Do-hyun helped steady her. Come on, Captain wants everyone in the common room. They walked through the ship together. Other crew members were emerging from their stations, looking relieved but alert. Everyone gathered in the large common area. Captain Minho stood at the front with Yuna, Hana, and Bex beside him. He waited until everyone was present, then spoke. I know that was frightening, but I want to be very clear about something. His eyes found Kiva and Turn in the crowd. No one on this ship is property. No one can be claimed or taken or sold. While you're with us, you're protected. That's not a temporary thing. That's how we operate. But why? Kiva's voice came out as a broken whisper. Everyone turned to look at her. Why risk your lives? Your ship? Commander Sora said she would risk war. War. For 2 exiles who mean nothing. Minho walked over to stand in front of her. His expression was serious but kind. You don't mean nothing. Your people. You're scared and hurt and you needed help. That's enough. It's not enough, Kiva said desperately. She needed to understand. There must be a reason. Some benefit, some gain. The reason is that it's right, Yuna said softly. She stepped forward too. Humans have a long history. We've been enslaved. We've been refugees. We've been exiled and hunted and hurt. We remember what that feels like. So when we see others suffering the same way, we act. Hana nodded. My grandmother was a refugee. She fled from a war when she was young. Another group of humans took her in, saved her life, gave her a home. She always said that kindness echoed forward, that we pay it forward to others who need help. But you barely know us, Turn said. We could be dangerous. We could be criminals, are you? Minho asked simply. No, we just wanted to choose our own lives. Then you're not criminals. You're people who wanted freedom. And we protect that. Minho looked around at his crew. This is who we are. This is what humanity does. We stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Even when it's hard. Even when it's risky. Kiva felt something break inside her chest, a wall she had built around her heart to survive the coldness of Velran society. Tears burned in her eyes and she could not stop them. She had never cried before, not even when the elders exiled her. Tears were inefficient, a waste of water and energy, but now they came hot and fast and she could not stop them. I don't understand, she sobbed. I don't understand how you can be this way. Yuna moved forward and did something unexpected. She pulled Kiva into a gentle embrace. Kiva stiffened, then slowly, carefully let herself lean into the touch. When was the last time someone had held her with kindness? Had anyone ever? You don't have to understand right now, Yuna murmured. Just know that you're safe. No one hurts you again. That's the promise. No one hurts you again, Minho repeated firmly. Not while you're with us. That's the deal. Kiva felt Turn move beside her. Then his arms wrapped around both her and Yuna. Her brother was crying too, making small broken sounds. They stood there. 2 exiled Velran being held by humans who had known them for barely 2 weeks. Humans who had called the military. Humans who had faced down dangerous hunters. Humans who had meant it when they said the word protection. Around them, the crew gave them space but stayed close. A silent wall of support. Kiva looked up through her tears and saw their faces. Do-hyun with his weathered features and crossed arms. Hana smiling gently. Bex nodding with understanding. Other crew members she barely knew, all standing together, all standing for her in turn. "Thank you," Kiva whispered. The words felt too small for what she felt. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Minho said. "Now come on. Let's get some food in you both." I think Dohyun was making stew. As the group dispersed, moving toward the galley together, Kiva felt something new stirring inside her. Something that felt like hope. Maybe, she thought. Maybe there was more to life than survival. Maybe there was kindness. Maybe there was safety. Maybe there were people who kept their promises. She held onto Turn's hand and followed the humans toward the smell of cooking food. Behind her, the stars continued their endless dance. But ahead of her, for the first time in her life, the future looked bright. Haven Station appeared on the viewing screen like a metal flower blooming in space. Kiva stood on the bridge of the Morning Star and stared at it. The station was huge, larger than any Velran structure she had ever seen. Thousands of lights dotted its surface. Ships of all sizes and designs moved around it like insects around a lamp. "It's beautiful," Turn breathed beside her. Captain Minho smiled. "Haven is special. It's one of the first stations humanity built specifically for refugees. People from all over come here when they have nowhere else to go." "All species are welcome?" Kiva asked. "All species who come in peace," Minho confirmed. "There are rules, of course. No violence, no exploitation, no hatred. But if you follow those rules, Haven will give you shelter." The Morning Star docked smoothly. As they walked through the airlock into the station, Kiva felt her breath catch. The main corridor was massive and filled with beings of every type. She saw species she recognized and dozens she did not. Furred and scaled, tall and short, with 2 limbs or 6 or none at all moving together peacefully, and everywhere humans. Humans in uniform, humans in casual clothes, humans working at stations and shops. They were not the majority, but they were woven throughout the station like threads holding fabric together. "This way," Yuna said gently. She had become something like a guardian to Kiva and Turn over the past 2 weeks. "There's someone we want you to meet." They walked through the station. Kiva noticed things. Small details that spoke volumes. A human child playing with an alien child, both laughing. A shopkeeper, human, serving customers of 3 different species with equal courtesy. Signs posted in dozens of languages. Public spaces designed for many different body types. This was not just tolerance. This was genuine acceptance. They arrived at an office marked Refugee Services. Inside, a human male stood examining a holographic display. He was tall with sharp eyes and an air of quiet authority. When he saw them enter, his face transformed with a warm smile. "Minho, good to see you. I heard about your encounter with the Vorath." He approached and clasped Minho's hand firmly. Then he turned to Kiva in turn. "And you must be our newest arrivals. I'm Tank. I help coordinate refugee settlement here at Haven." "Settlement," Kiva repeated. "You mean we can stay?" "If you want to," Tyke said. "That's always the question we ask. What do you want?" What did she want? Kiva had never been asked that question seriously before. On Velran Prime, wants were irrelevant. You did what the elders commanded. "I don't know," she admitted quietly. "That's okay," Tyke said kindly. "You don't have to decide today, or this week. Take time to explore, to heal, to figure out what kind of life you want to build. Haven gives you that space." A female human entered the office carrying data tablets. She had gentle eyes and moved with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in her environment. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic in the commercial sector was terrible." She smiled at Kiva in turn. "Hello, I'm Gina. I work as a cultural liaison here." "Cultural liaison?" Turn asked. "I help newcomers adjust to life on Haven," Gina explained. "Every species has different needs, different cultural expectations, different ways of communicating. My job is to help bridge those gaps." She glanced at Tyke. "And I'm guessing you called me here for our new Velran friends?" "Exactly right." Tyke gestured for everyone to sit. "Kiva, Turn, I know the past few weeks have been overwhelming. Going from exile to rescue to safety is a lot to process. Gina can help you understand human culture better, help you see why we do what we do." "I would like that," Kiva said slowly. "I still don't fully understand why humans help, what they gain from it." Gina settled into a chair across from them. "That's a common question. Let me tell you about human history. We're not perfect. Not by far. We've done terrible things to each other and to other species. Wars, genocides, slavery. Our past is full of darkness. She paused, making sure they were listening. But we learned from it. Slowly, painfully, we learned that when we hurt others, we hurt ourselves. When we lift others up, everyone benefits. It took us thousands of years and countless mistakes to figure that out. Many species learn these lessons, Kiva said, but they don't act on them the way humans do. True, Gina agreed.
Want to know why?
Because humanity almost went extinct once. About 200 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves in something called the Final War. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons. We threw everything at each other. Billions died, Tern gasped. Kiva felt horror crawl through her. Billions? Billions, Gina confirmed, her voice heavy. We came so close to ending our species. But we stopped. We pulled back from the edge. And in that moment, with our world burning and our people dying, we made a choice. Never again. Never again would we let hatred and fear control us. Never again would we turn away from those who needed help. She leaned forward. That's what drives us. We remember. We remember what it's like to be on the edge of destruction. We remember what it's like to be desperate and afraid. So when we see others in that position, we act. Because we know what happens when no one acts. Kiva absorbed this. It made a terrible kind of sense. Humans had touched the darkness and survived. They carried that knowledge with them. The Velrun would call that weakness, she said quietly. Letting the past control the present. The elders teach that only the future matters. Only genetic continuity and species advancement. How's that working out for them? Tyke asked, not unkindly. Kiva thought about it. The Velrun Confederacy was stable, orderly, efficient, but it was also cold. Rigid. It cast out anyone who deviated from the plan. It valued genes over individuals, order over freedom. Not well, she admitted. For people like us, at least. Exactly, Gina said. See, humans figured out something important. A society is only as good as how it treats its most vulnerable members. If you cast out the weak, the different, the questioning, you lose something vital. You lose diversity, innovation, growth. Tyke nodded. Haven Station exists because we believe every person has value. Not because of their genes or their productivity or their obedience. Just because they exist. Just because they're people. Over the next hour, Gina and Tyke showed them around. They visited the residential sectors where refugees lived in clean, comfortable quarters. They saw the schools where children of all species learned together. They visited the medical center where Yuna had trained, seeing doctors of many species working side by side. Everywhere they went, Kiva saw the same pattern. Humans working with other species, humans helping without asking for payment, humans creating spaces where everyone could thrive. In a communal garden, they met a group of other refugees, an elderly Carven male who had fled religious persecution, a young Threx mother with 2 children, escaping an arranged military service that would have separated her family, a Renth scholar who had asked too many questions and been marked for execution. All of them told similar stories. Humans had found them. Humans had saved them. Humans had brought them to Haven and given them a chance to rebuild. Why doesn't everyone know about this? Tern asked. Why doesn't the whole galaxy understand what humans do? Some do, Tyke said. Our reputation is spreading. More and more refugees find their way to human space. But many cultures, like the Velran, are closed off. They don't want their people to know there are alternatives to their way of life. Because then people would question, Kiva said softly. They would ask why they can't have freedom and choice. Exactly. That evening, Gina took them to a communal dining area. The room was enormous and filled with beings eating together, talking, laughing. The sound was strange and wonderful. Chaos and joy mixed together. They sat at a table with Bex and several other non-humans. A Carven engineer, a Threx artist, a Renth teacher. All refugees, all saved by humans, all building new lives. How long have you been here? Kiva asked the Carven. 5 years, she said. Her name was Velka. I was nearly dead when a human patrol found me. They brought me here, healed me, gave me a job. Now I design environmental systems for the station. She smiled. I have a purpose again. And friends. Real friends, not just genetic unit members. The Threx, whose name was Saral, laughed. I've been here 3 years. My children go to school with human kids. Last week, my daughter asked me why humans are so nice. I told her it's just how they are. But why? Kiva asked, still seeking that final piece of understanding. What makes them this way? The Renth teacher called Warak spoke up. His voice was thoughtful. I've studied human culture extensively. I think it comes down to one thing. Humans believe in potential. They look at someone broken and scared and lost, and they don't see waste. They see possibility. They see what that person could become with help. He gestured at the crowded room. Every being here was once considered worthless by someone. Exiles, criminals, refugees, failures. But humans saw us differently. They saw people who deserved a chance. And look what we've become. Kiva looked around the room with new eyes. These were not broken beings. They were engineers and artists and teachers and parents. They were people living full lives, contributing to their community, finding joy and purpose. This was what freedom looked like. Later, alone in the guest quarters assigned to them, Kiva stood at the window looking out at space. Tern sat on his bed, reading from a data tablet about engineering programs offered on the station. The rescue ships gathered at the edge of Haven Station like birds of prey preparing to hunt. But these hunters sought to save, not kill. Kiva stood in the briefing room surrounded by humans and other species, all volunteers for the rescue operation. At the front of the room stood Commander Hyun, a human military officer with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. He projected a holographic map showing 3 star systems. "We have confirmed distress signals from 23 Velran exiles," Hyun said, his voice crisp and professional. "They're scattered across 3 systems. Most are in failing pods or stranded on marginal worlds. We have a narrow window before the Vorath hunters track them down." Captain Minho stood beside Hyun. "We'll split into 4 teams. Each team takes a system. We go in fast. We extract everyone we can and we get out before the hunters arrive." "What if the hunters are already there?" someone asked. "Then we deal with them," Hyun said flatly. "But our priority is the refugees. We save lives first." Kiva listened to the planning. Teams were assigned, ships prepared, routes calculated. It was all so efficient, so organized. These humans had done this before. Many times, she realized, Yuna appeared at her side. "Are you sure about this? You don't have to come." "Yes, I do," Kiva said. "I understand Velran better than anyone else here. I can help calm them, explain that you're here to help. They'll be terrified. They'll think it's a trap, like you did," Yuna said gently. "Like I did," Kiva agreed. "But I learned. Now I can help others learn too." A new figure entered the briefing room, a human female with quick movements and sharp eyes. She wore a pilot's uniform and carried herself with easy confidence. This was Nari, Kiva learned. "The best pilot in the rescue fleet. Ready when you are, Commander," Nari said. "My ship's prepped and ready to go." "Good." Hyun looked around the room. "Remember, we're not just saving bodies. We're saving people. Treat them with dignity and respect. Show them what humanity stands for. Everyone clear?" A chorus of agreements filled the room. Then teams dispersed to their ships. Kiva found herself assigned to Nari's vessel along with Yuna, Minho, and Do-hyun. Tern was placed on a different ship with Hana, despite his protests about being separated from his sister. "You'll be fine," Kiva told him, gripping his hands. "And we'll all meet back here with everyone we save." "Stay safe," Tern said. His eyes were worried but determined. "Come back, I will. I promise." Nari's ship was smaller than the Morning Star but faster, built for speed and maneuverability. As they launched from Haven Station, Kiva watched the other rescue ships spread out, each heading to their assigned targets. Their first stop was a dead world called Karo 7. The planet was barely habitable. With a thin atmosphere and freezing temperatures, Velran exiles had been dumped there 3 days ago according to the distress signal. 5 life signs on the surface, Nari reported as they entered orbit. "They're weak but alive, bringing us down now." The ship shook as they entered the atmosphere. Through the viewport, Kiva saw a barren landscape of ice and rock. How had anyone survived down there? They landed near the life signs. The boarding ramp lowered and bitter cold rushed in. Kiva pulled on the thermal gear Yuna had given her and stepped out onto the frozen ground. "There," Minho pointed. A small cave opening in a rocky hillside. Huddled inside were 5 Velran, 3 adults and 2 children, all wrapped in the tattered remains of their exile clothes. They stared at the approaching figures with hollow, frightened eyes. Kiva stepped forward, pulling back her hood so they could see her face. "I'm Velran, like you. These humans are here to help." One of the adults, a female, laughed bitterly. "Help? No one helps exiles. What do you really want?" "To save your lives," Kiva said simply. "I was exiled 3 weeks ago. I thought the same thing. But I was wrong. Come with us, please. There's food, warmth, safety. Lies, another Velrin muttered. Always lies, one of the children whimpered. She was so small, maybe only 8 cycles old. Too young to be exiled? What had she done to deserve this? Yuna moved forward slowly, her hands visible and empty. I'm a doctor. Your children need medical care. Let me help them. That's all I want to do right now. The Velrin adults looked at each other. Desperation warred with suspicion on their faces. Finally, the female spoke. If this is a trick, it's not, Kiva promised. I swear on my life. Come aboard the ship. See for yourself. Slowly, carefully, the Velrin group emerged from the cave. Yuna immediately went to the children, scanning them with medical equipment. The adults watched her with tense fear, ready to fight or flee despite their weakness. They're severely dehydrated and malnourished, Yuna said quietly. We need to get them to the ship now. Do-hyun had already retrieved 2 stretchers. They loaded the children gently while the adults followed, still suspicious but too weak to resist. Once aboard, the change was immediate. Heat flooded over them. Yuna distributed water and nutrient packs. Nari lifted off, heading back to orbit. Where are you taking us? The female Velrin asked. To Haven Station, Kiva said. A place where exiles are welcome, where you can build new lives. Why? The question came out broken. Why would anyone do this? Kiva smiled, remembering asking the same thing. Because humans believe everyone deserves a chance. Even exiles, especially exiles. Over the next 12 hours, they rescued 3 more groups. A pair of elderly Velrin abandoned on an asteroid, a young male drifting in a damaged pod, a family of 4 hiding in the ruins of an old mining station. Each time, Kiva helped convince them to trust. Each time, she saw her own story reflected in their frightened faces. The last group was the hardest. They found them on a harsh desert world called Terminus. The planet lived up to its name, a place where the Velrin sent exiles to die slowly. 10 Velrin were scattered across a small settlement of makeshift shelters. But they were not alone. Ship detected, Nari said sharply. Vorath design. They're already here. Through the viewport, Kiva saw a Vorath hunting vessel on the ground near the settlement. The hunters were herding the Velrin exiles together, binding them with energy restraints. Options? Minho asked. We're faster, but they're bigger, Nari said, her hands dancing over the controls. If we go in, we're committed. Could get ugly. Then it gets ugly. Hyun's voice came through the communication system. He had arrived in his military ship. All rescue vessels, this is Commander Hyun. Vorath hunters are attempting to capture refugees in Sector 7. We're going in. Anyone who wants out, leave now. No one left. Kiva watched as the rescue ships descended together. Hyun's military vessel took point. Weapon systems active. The Vorath looked up, saw them coming, and immediately opened fire. Hold on. Nari yanked the ship into a sharp dive, dodging weapons fire. This is going to get bumpy. The ship twisted and spun through the air. Kiva's stomach lurched, but she kept her eyes on the ground. The Velrin exiles were scattering, trying to escape in the chaos. Hyun's ship returned fire, not to kill but to disable. Precision shots took out the Vorath vessel's weapons and engines. Nari brought their ship down hard, 50 meters from the settlement. The ramp dropped before they even fully landed. Go, Minho shouted. Get them aboard. Kiva ran down the ramp with Yuna and Do-hyun. The Vorath hunters were on foot now, still trying to catch the fleeing Velrin. One hunter grabbed a small child, yanking her off her feet. Something snapped inside Kiva. She ran forward without thinking, without planning. She just ran. Let her go, Kiva shouted. The Vorath turned, surprised. In that moment of distraction, Do-hyun tackled him from the side. The child fell free and Kiva scooped her up, turning to run back to the ship. I've got you, she whispered to the terrified child. No one hurts you again. I promise. No one hurts you again. The words came out automatically. The same words Minho had said to her. The same promise that had changed her life. She ran with the child clutched against her chest. Behind her, she heard weapons fire, shouts, chaos. But ahead was the ship. Safety. Home. She stumbled up the ramp. Yuna grabbed the child, immediately checking her for injuries. Other Velrin were already aboard, rescued by other team members. Minho and Do-hyun were the last ones back, breathing hard but uninjured. Everyone accounted for, Minho called to Nari. The ship lifted off before the ramp even fully closed. Through the viewport, Kiva saw Hyun's military vessel providing cover, keeping the Vorath pinned down. Then they were in the sky. then in space, then jumping to faster-than-light travel. The ship fell quiet except for the hum of engines. Kiva stood in the passenger area, surrounded by 10 rescued Velran exiles. They stared at her, at the humans, with disbelief and dawning hope. The small child Kiva had saved sat on a medical bed while Yuna treated minor injuries. Her eyes were huge and dark in her thin face. "Who are you?" the child asked quietly. Kiva knelt down to her level. "My name is Kiva. I was exiled just like you. These humans saved me. Now we're saving you. Are the hunters gone?" "Yes, they can't hurt you anymore. Promise?" The child's voice was so small, so fragile. Kiva reached out and gently took the child's hand. She felt the weight of the moment. This was what humanity had given her. Not just rescue, not just safety, but the ability to pass that gift forward. To be the one who protects instead of the one who cowers. "Promise," Kiva said firmly. "No one hurts you again." That's the promise, and humans always keep their promises.